Welcome to the September 2023 edition of Hunt Camp Mail. As always, we were blessed with the opening act of hunting season, the annual dove opener. The dove opener was very special for me this year because my youngest son moved to Germany on the 15th of this month, and we hunted doves like crazy right up until the day he left. So you can't put a price on time spent like that. The dove opener sends us into hunting season with a lighthearted smile before things get more serious and the really tough hunting starts. I spent quality time with family and friends in the dove fields this year, and I hope all of you were able to experience that as well. In case you haven't noticed, dove season isn't necessarily about shooting doves. I also went into the mountains and got serious about scouting my deer zones. I didn't score on public land last year, so hopefully my hard work pays off this year. I also wish all of you the best this hunting season. With the prologue out of the way, let's get to September's mail. And our first question is from Charles from Georgia. Charles wrote, regarding the donut stone in your last Africa hunt, you probably researched this already, but on the off chance you haven't, I thought you'd find this interesting. And Charles sent me a link to an article about those ancient donut stones. But basically, to fill you in on the backstory here, when I was hunting probably over 10 miles into the bush in the Zambezi Valley chasing buffalo last year, we came across this odd, perfectly shaped donut stone that was obviously made by humans.
They found a donut rock. This is not a donut. This is a rock. Pretty weird. Never seen anything like that.
And one of my viewers from a foreign country, who's also an archaeologist professor at a university, sent me a link last December to an article about these types of ancient donut stones found in Eastern Africa. And it is indeed a weight for prehistoric implement called a digging stick. It's crazy that ancient cultures around the world used this type of technology independently at the same time. I was also told by that archaeologist that donut stone that we found near the Zimbabwe-Mozambique border might be close to 40 or 50,000 years old, and that just blew my mind. But to be clear here, out of respect for the local culture, I left the stone where I found it. No different than here in the United States when I come across Native American artifacts. I always admire the beauty and history of old artifacts, so I always leave them where they belong. They're not mine to take. And our next question is from Craig from Nova Scotia. Craig wrote, I recently was in a tuna fishing tournament and spent 3 full days offshore in the sun. I wore a new pair of Revo sunglasses with the blue tint, and my eyes want to thank you. Your video on sunglasses was very informative. Well, thank you for the compliment. Now to hunting. I have watched many of your videos, and I don't think I heard you discuss the relevance of subsonic ammunition for hunting, for example, deer. The market seems to show this as new, but I believe shotgun slugs have been doing this for some time. I would like to hear your thoughts on the history and relevance of subsonic ammunition. I'm surprised no one's asked me that earlier, and it's a good question. And you're right, shotgun slugs have been killing deer for a very long time, but almost all modern shotgun slugs are actually supersonic. They're not subsonic. They're in that supersonic range. Also, most people who kill deer with shotgun slugs these days are forced to do so by law, not by choice. But I'm personally not really a fan of subsonic rifle cartridges for deer hunting. They lack the versatility, and I'd only use subsonic cartridges in one circumstance, to tell you the truth. And that's if I was stand hunting or blind hunting, on a very small property like a lot of the whitetail hunters do back east, I could see the value of a subsonic round to kill a deer at close distance without disturbing the neighbors. Subsonic rounds are quiet, very low recoil, and are less likely to do collateral damage. So I think it's a sensible choice for an environment like that. But that's pretty much it, in my opinion. I'm not a wannabe special ops assassin. I'm just a hunter looking to put foot-pounds of energy on an animal with a round that has a relatively flat trajectory. And subsonic rounds don't really do that, do they? The realist in me always overshadows my own desire to follow trends. So that's why I'm not really into the subsonic craze. And our next question is from John from Australia. And longtime viewers of this channel know I have a big following down under. John wrote, I recently hunted my first water buffalo with a 375 H&H and was very pleased with the performance. When considering modern bullet construction and rifle powders, do you believe there's still a significant advantage to using cartridges bigger than a 375 H&H for dangerous game? The 375 H&H is perfectly adequate for dangerous game. I mean, that's a proven fact with well over 100 years of evidence to back it up. But let's be honest here. Water buffalo, even though they can be aggressive, are relatively docile animals compared to Cape buffalo. And so most people don't really consider water buffalo dangerous game. It's the same thing with the American bison, which is actually bigger than a Cape buffalo. But Cape buffalo are so nasty that they can't be domesticated like water buffalo and bison can. I mean, they're just pure attitude. I hunt American bison here in the United States with my 35 Wayland, but I never think of doing that with the Cape buffalo. Cape buffalo are just exceedingly dangerous animals, especially when you're hunting them in really thick jess, and you can get blindsided by animals coming out of nowhere. But I think the extra insurance of a more powerful round on one of the most dangerous animals on the planet is worth it if you can handle the increased recoil, because making a first accurate shot is more important than foot-pounds of energy. But most Cape buffalo hunts have a PH with a big stopping rifle over his shoulder. So there's really no need for the client these days to have a really big gun, except maybe if you're hunting in some really thick jess. And our next letter is from Mark from San Luis Obispo, California. Mark wrote, I recently hunted deer in A-zone. The first day I went out, I got killed by mosquitoes. I've never seen the mosquitoes as thick as they were this year. After that, I bought a bottle of permethrin, like you recommended in your mosquito video, and treated my clothing with it. Wow, did that work? Thank you for the advice. Well, I mean, I told you so. Africa hunters have been doing that for literally many, many decades. I mean, the United States military has always treated their clothing with permethrin if soldiers are going to be operating in a malaria environment. So the stuff really works, and I'm glad you tried it out and it worked out for you. And you're right, the mosquitoes are absolutely brutal this year. And our next question is from Paul from Salt Lake City, Utah. Paul wrote, we have a debate among my hunting buddies over scent sprays. Everyone agrees that you must use the wind, but a couple of my buddies get crazy with special soap, scent blocker clothes, and special deodorant. They also use a whole bottle of scent killer spray every day while we're hunting. Other friends don't use any of that, and they get deer and elk every year. What have you noticed, especially with the spray? Well, and I'll agree that hunting with the wind in your face is everything. And the reason is obvious, so I won't get into why that's important, hunting with the wind in your face. But honestly, I think for spot and stock hunting, those scent killer sprays are mostly hype and probably a waste of money. I used scent control sprays and special body wash for years, but stopped using them when I realized that the most successful hunters that I know don't use any of that stuff. You know what? Actually, one day it hit me. I'm going out in the summer, setting up trail cams before hunting season in a sweaty, nasty, stinky t-shirt and putting my scent all over the camera and the tree that it's attached to. Yet right after I leave, deer move right into the area like they don't even care. You know, then some hunters and YouTube influencers started testing the scent control stuff using dogs. And dogs have way less sensitive noses than deer do. Yet dogs can easily track people when they use scent control products. You know, even when the trail is old, the dogs can track them when they're using those scent control products. And the point is, human beings can't hide our scent no matter what we do or how hard we try. I also think that there's a deer hunting cultural divide when it comes to using scent control products. For instance, whitetail hunters back east that hunt from a stand or a blind over bait tend to think the scent control products really work. And who knows, maybe it does for them because they're, you know, hunting in the same exact spot every year and they have scent all over the baited area, all over their blind or their tree stand. They basically created their own little human trail back and forth between the stand and where their vehicle is. So who knows, it might work for them. But in the more traditional Western style hunting, spot and stock, still hunting, something like that, people here really don't buy into the scent control products. You know, and we feel that the best thing you can do is just use the wind to your advantage. Stay quiet and just avoid movement at all. You know, if you think scent control spray is improving your odds, I kind of think you might be fooling yourself. You know, maybe they just make people more confident and like the placebo effect, and that confidence really matters. But the best and most successful hunters I know just work the wind and they don't use any of those fancy scent control products. That stuff is marketed hard to the whitetail hunters back east, and you know that marketing seems to work. But I do wash my hunting clothes with a product called Sport Wash. Not so much for scent control, but because it doesn't have any UV brighteners in it. And our next letter is from Hassan in Irvine, California. Hassan wrote, I've been researching to replace my Vortex spotting scope with something better. I looked through my brother's Swarovski and was amazed by the images compared to my Vortex. I am ready to move away from the Vortex brand and get something better. Your glassing video came at the perfect time because I was considering buying a Koa after recommending from some elk hunters online. I keep seeing different types of glass used. Examples are HD, ED, XD, HT, and FL. What does this mean and why is it important? Who makes the best glass? Well, that's a pretty complex question, Hassan, but I personally believe that good glass is very important. But the different types of glass used in lenses isn't always as important as the coatings on the glass and the construction of the spotting scope itself. But to answer your question, let me break down the different types of glasses for you. What's known as HD glass or high density glass is made from better raw materials than your standard silicone based lenses. HD glass was basically the industry's first real attempt to control chromatic aberration. And since then, the word HD has become more of a marketing term than really a type of glass. Later on, the ED glass, which stands for extra low dispersion glass. The ED glass hit the scene, and ED glass usually contains some percentage of fluoride in it to further reduce chromatic aberration. Glass marketed as XD or FL fall into this category of ED glass usually. It's just another fancy name for it. And then you have the HT or UHT glass, which stands for high transmission glass or ultra high transmission glass. And this glass enhances brightness by reducing loss within the lens itself. You know, it's more of a lens design thing. And lastly, we have pure fluorite crystal lenses. And pure fluorite lenses are very expensive and difficult to manufacture on a large scale, but done right, they have a level of performance that regular optical glass just can't replicate. And, you know, I know Kowa is the only spotting scope manufacturer right now marketing these lenses. And Kowa actually grows their own fluorite crystals in-house at their own facility. In the end, though, most companies don't really make their own glass like you think, Hassan. The only two spotting scope manufacturers that I know of that make their own glass is probably Kowa and Zeiss. Technically, Zeiss doesn't actually make their own glass, but they own Schott AG, which makes most of the glass used in European scopes like Zeiss, and, Swarovski, and Leica. But like I said earlier, the coatings that these manufacturers use on the glass lenses and the design of the optic itself have a huge impact on optical quality. For instance, some Zeiss scopes and tracked toric scopes use the exact same Schott HT glass in them. But when you look through the scopes, the Zeiss performs multiple times better than that tracked toric does. And this is because Zeiss uses superior coatings and their optics have superior design elements in them. So the type of glass used doesn't really tell the whole story. If you do get a Kowa spotting scope, I highly recommend the TSN 770 or the TSN 880 or 88 series, because they're a versatile size with fantastic field of view, and they have those great Kowa eyepieces with good eye relief on them. It'll be a huge upgrade over the Vortex that you have right now. And our next letter is from Brad in Meridian, Idaho. Brad wrote, "I watched your scope video and was disappointed. For someone who claimed to have hunted Idaho and Montana a lot, you know nothing about the law here. All of your scopes with illuminated reticles and lit dots in the center will get your ass thrown in jail and your gun taken away in my state. We are sick of assholes like you coming here and breaking the law. I'm sending you an email because you don't have the balls to face me on the internet." Brad, stop being a Brad. And just so you know, my family has property and roots in Idaho dating back to 1880. Most of my family is resting underground in the Neely Cemetery, and my oldest son was laid to rest in Montana. So I definitely have roots there. And, how long have you been hunting and fishing in Idaho? Are you a transplant from another state trying to fit in? So, you see, I could jump to conclusions too. You kept posting this stuff repeatedly in the video comment section, and I deleted them because you didn't want to hear anybody's answers, and you got very rude with everybody. One person even provided you with a link to the law, and you called him a cuck, and I just don't have time to argue with people like you, so I deleted your comments. And just so you know, I'll repeat what I already told you in the comment section of that video. It is perfectly legal to hunt in Idaho and Montana with an illuminated reticle on your rifle. And here's the Idaho law, straight from the Idaho State website. And here's the Montana law, straight from the Montana State website. Brad, for continuing to spread this wives' tale and for being a generally unpleasant human being, you're getting the BS button.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
Bullshit! Bullshit! Bullshit!
There's an old saying, to speak without knowledge is worse than having knowledge without speaking. And this life lesson was for you, Brad, and I offer it free of charge. And our next letter is from Peter from California. Peter wrote, I watched your dove hunting video the other day, and you talked about how to find hunting spots and encourage folks to spend the time and effort to find their own spots. You specifically mentioned getting burned in the past after showing spots to people. As you know, chukar hunting is a very unique thing. I've been doing it since I was a youngster and have spent many years and plenty of effort finding spots to hunt them. About 15 years ago, I turned someone onto one of my spots, a pretty damn good location actually. I thought he was going to be responsible. Well, I learned the hard way. Found out later he was bringing his whole gang and their dogs there. So no surprise, the spot got ruined. Never again. I learned my lesson. Well, thank you for the letter, Peter. And yeah, I mean, it almost never ends well when you show people your hunting spots. You know, even close friends and family members will definitely burn you. My viewers know the amount of scouting and work I put into finding my hunting and fishing spots. And I'd say for every 20 spots I look at, one might actually be promising. You know, I've probably put over 50 hours of scouting into my deer zones just this summer alone. While most of you were sitting at home on the couch all weekend watching football, I was out in the woods with a backpack on getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. My email and video comments are always inundated with people wanting to know my hunting and fishing spots. And, I delete those posts, because I wouldn't give up a good hunting spot for my own sister. So I sure as hell won't give it up to a stranger on the internet. And I just get asked this all the time, and I'm sure the other hunting influencers on YouTube that hunt public land deal with this as well, and my advice is always, an integral part of hunting, probably 90% of the success of hunting is putting in the work before hunting season even starts, and you need to do that. People will promise you that, I promise I'll keep your spot secret, Desert Dog, but in my estimation, there's a 90% chance that they'll either overhunt your spot or they'll bring others to your spot, which will start a chain reaction that'll probably ruin it forever. If someone is too lazy to put in the work to find their own spots, chances are that their character is such that they won't keep your spot a secret either. I have one guy, though, that I will share hunting spots with, and you know him on my channel as Nubs. Not only because he also does a lot of his own scouting and finds a lot of his own spots, and we tend to work together and trade intel on different areas. We have a mutual interest in kind of a symbiotic relationship and keeping each other's spots off the radar. And, we enjoy the fruits of each other's labor. So, it's a mutual thing. We also coordinate hunts so that we don't overhunt spots. And Nubs is my one exception to the rule. And our next letter is from Dave from Ontario, Canada. Dave wrote, I just wanted to mention a couple of things that really resonated with me in some of your recent videos. First, it's interesting to find out that you majored in geology. I'm a geological engineer and geologist myself. Studying Earth's history helps put climate data in perspective. Also, I want to add hell yeah to your comment that it's silly for Leupold to put the CDS dial on lower powered scopes like the 1.5 to 5 or the 1 to 5. For the intended purposes of those scopes, I don't see the need for dialing unless you're lobbying a 45 Colt with a lever gun or something like that. It's a great point, Dave. And, you're absolutely correct. Putting CDS dials on LPVOs is pretty stupid. If you're using an LPVO for hunting, you're hunting within 200 yards, usually making quicker shots, and you won't be doing any dialing at all. And at that point, the CDS dial is just an exposed, overcomplicated thing on the scope that adds an unnecessary expense to it. I think Leupold really missed the mark on that. And our next letter is from Dick from San Antonio, Texas. Dick wrote, I know you hate multiple questions and camouflage, so I'm going to break both rules. Please don't judge me. They are serious questions. Question number 1. Why do upland hunters wear blaze orange but duck hunters wear camouflage? Question number 2. In Texas, we have every type of terrain you can think of, and it all holds deer. What do you think is the best camo pattern for deer hunting in a variety of terrains? You're being a real dick. But because you were so bold in your opening statement, I'm going to go ahead and add it to Hunt Camp Mail. On your first question, question number 1, birds like quail, pheasant, chukar, and grouse are ground-dwelling birds that flush from the ground into the air. And since they're on the ground hiding and you're walking around trying to find them, they already know you're there, and they're trying to hide as long as they can before they flush. And camouflage is totally useless for that type of hunting. Also, when an upland field holds birds, there might be multiple hunters working that same field that you're in, and shots are often close to the ground on rising birds. So blaze orange is appropriate as a safety measure for that type of hunting. I mean, blaze orange is more important than camo for upland hunting. Waterfowl and dove hunting is different because you're trying to get flying birds to come close enough to you to shoot. And since birds have excellent vision, they won't fly to you if they see you. And that's why camo and concealment are very effective when you're waterfowl or dove hunting. But camo is extremely important when you're turkey hunting as well, because you're trying to get the birds, those turkeys with exceptional eyesight, to come to you. So camo and concealment is very effective for turkey hunting. Regarding your second question, I always wear camo when waterfowl or turkey hunting, but I don't generally wear camo for deer hunting, especially if I'm doing like a traditional spot and stalk hunt. When deer hunting in more open areas, though, I might wear a camo hat and jacket out there just to kind of break up my outline. For general deer hunting camo, I'm not very fond of those patterns that try to make you look like a tree or try to make you look like the background, or patterns that try to trick the human eye because, deers don't see anything like people do. As a matter of fact, they see a lot. But having said that, you're looking for a versatile camo pattern here. Having said that, the old ASAT camo pattern is probably the most versatile pattern for deer hunting ever made, in my opinion. It looks really stupid, doesn't it? Which probably isn't good for sales, but it seems to really confuse deer. If I was hell-bent on wearing camo for deer, it would probably be ASAT camo. Most really good bow hunters swear by this camo as well. And rather than trying to look like a tree or a bunch of leaves, which quite honestly to a deer's eyes are probably just a blurry big blob anyway, this type of camo actually, instead of trying to get you to blend with the background, it's more of an optical illusion. Has more of kind of an optical illusion effect to it. And it's very damn effective. Unfortunately, companies have to pay for the rights to use ASAT camo. So very few gear manufacturers make clothing in this pattern anymore. I mean, when First Light made it and Sitka made gear with this ASAT pattern, it was probably their top selling pattern, but they didn't want to pay for the rights to use it anymore. And a lot of companies kind of went the route of developing their own kind of proprietary camo to use so they don't have to pay anybody rights to use that camo, which is unfortunate because ASAT is probably better than any of First Light or Sitka's current camo offerings. Day One Camouflage, which I believe this is, this is from Day One Camouflage, made in the United States right here. And, you know, there's a few companies out there that still make hunting gear with the ASAT pattern in it. And like I said, this is Day One Camouflage. Get online and check them out if you want to use some ASAT camo, but that's what I recommend. And who knows, just for my viewers, I might go out tomorrow on the opener and actually wear some ASAT camo for you. Our next letter is from Mark from Anchorage, Alaska. Mark wrote, my 338 Win Mag loads have a standard deviation of 13 for 10 shots when I don't crimp. But when I set my seating die up to crimp, my standard deviation moves up to 24 and my groups open up 100% at 300 yards. I really want to crimp my hunting ammo in this heavy recoil caliber, but not if it makes it inaccurate. How do I solve this problem? This is a very common predicament, Mark. Assuming that you did a proper load development process and you're using a good powder node, I can almost guarantee you that the roll crimp feature in your seating die is the issue. Never use the roll crimp feature on your seating die. If you need to crimp a cartridge, always do it as a separate step with the Lee Factory crimp die. With the 338 Win Mag, just a slight crimp with that Lee Factory crimp die is enough. So get that Lee Factory crimp die, set it up properly, and get back to me with your new results. And as if the stars aligned on us, we have another question in regards to crimping. Dan from New Mexico wrote, I'm going to start using expander mandrels to gain more consistency with neck tension. I'm wondering though, if I use my Lee Factory crimp die, wouldn't that even out the neck tension? Well, crimping, even with the Lee Factory crimp dies that I recommend, crimping actually screws with neck tension. And that's why I never crimp my precision loads or any loads basically with less recoil than a 338 Win Mag. You know, no competitive shooter will ever use a crimp on their competition ammunition because they went out of their way to achieve precise neck tension and concentricity, and they don't want to screw that up with a crimp. You know, in every test and load development I've ever ran, a crimp makes my loads shoot a little less accurate and precise. You know, extreme spreads always go noticeably higher when I crimp. But when you're hunting with heavy recoiling rounds, bullet setback in the magazine is actually a real thing, and I've measured it. And I always put a light Lee Factory crimp on those loads because the trade-off in accuracy is worth it to me for that particular application. And I always use crimps on ammo that will also be used in my semi-automatic rifles. So those are the applications I use crimps. So maybe you're overusing your Lee Factory crimp die. You know, if you're out hunting with your 6.5 Creedmoor or your 308 or even your 300 Win Mag, I wouldn't crimp that ammo. I just make sure I have 2 to 3 thousandths of neck tension on my sizing process and leave it at that. And our next letter is from Dave from Central Kansas. Dave wrote, I just finished watching the author's favorites video for at least the third time. Now you come out with a video about the forgotten gun experts, which is going to force me to get the credit card out again. Sorry about that. I'm very familiar with the works of Needner, Hatcher, Griffin, Howe, and P.O. Ackley, but did not recognize any of the others and do not have any of their books. I think Hatcher's Notebook will be first on my list. Like a couple of other viewers, I was disappointed that you didn't mention Phil Sharp or Jerry Kuhnhausen. You know, although I did give Phil Sharp some love in my 357 Magnum video, you know, you're right, he was left out of my new video, and I probably should have added him. You know, I also have several of Jerry Kuhnhausen's manuals, but they kind of just, in my opinion, I don't mean to diminish his legacy, but they kind of regurgitate the same stuff that other people have been doing for decades. But, you know, maybe his format was a little bit easier to read and follow, and he had some great illustrations, and I believe he did all of those illustrations himself too. But to me, he really doesn't offer any profoundly new information on the technical design elements of firearms like a guy like Stuart Otteson did. And our next letter is from John from Stockton, California. John wrote, I applaud you for going against some of your sponsors to give us a fair evaluation of products. Other hunting channels just pimp whatever products they are sent. Then they research those products and find out that they are junk. Thank you for not doing that. It's cool to see a Leupold sponsored channel recommending stuff from Swarovski, Nightforce, Trijicon, and Kowa. John, I'm not sponsored by Leupold or anyone else. I have no sponsors, and I will say, though, that my email is constantly full of correspondence from companies wanting to send me free shit, you know, so I have to imagine that other YouTube influencers are experiencing the exact same thing. I constantly see other channels review stuff that I turn down, you know, but more power to them, you know, it gives them content, and obviously people click on it so they want that content, and it doesn't bother me at all. You know, I've been offered scopes from companies like Hawk, Arkin, Vector, and a few others for review, but I really have no interest in a Chinese scope, so I declined those offers. A company wanted to send me a set of Chinese waders last week, and I declined that. Another company wanted to send me some Chinese camo a few weeks ago, and I also declined that offer. Now, I constantly decline free products because I'm not personally interested in them, and you know, I don't need sponsors to survive, so you know, there's no use in me doing that. I also turn down products if the company wants to prevent me from making negative reviews about them, which pretty much eliminates most of the top tier products out there, in case you don't know that. You know, if somebody wants to send me good gear to try, especially USA made stuff, I'm all in as long as they're willing to accept a poor review if I don't like it. But no, John, I'm not sponsored by any companies. And our last question is from Nathan in Kansas. Nathan wrote, Hello, Desert Dog. I have an older Savage 110 inherited from my grandfather that I don't want to get rid of due to sentiment. I have other rifles, but I just feel good to use this one. He rode this thing hard and put it away wet, so after finding some rust forming in the throat and chamber of the barrel, I rebarreled it with a 24-inch 1 8.5 twist with the same 270 Win as the factory. I plan to use it as a deer and potentially elk rifle. It has the classic Savage weak ejection, and the wood stocks look like it's been bedded with some gummy compound that I had to remove during the rebarrel process. Do you have any recommendations to spruce up these old Savages? Well, I know all about the sentimental value of Grandpa's old rifles. I use my Grandpa's old guns all the time, and you know, there's a lot, you know, I have a lot of new fancy new guns out there, but there's really nothing like carrying Grandpa's guns out while hunting. So I feel you on this. On that Savage build, you already handled the most important part. You rebarreled it. Now, throw in a Timney trigger, and bed it into a nice new stock. And since that you indicated that that old gun wasn't cared for properly, I'd also rebuild the bolt. Get a new firing pin and spring, a new ejector and spring, and one of those new extractor kits that you buy. It comes with the extractor, the ball, the spring, maybe even a new magazine spring as well. Then you could pass your grandpa's old Savage onto his great-grandson. Well, that does it for September's edition of Hunt Camp Mail. Here's some memes for this month.
It's just a biohazard issue. We've had a passenger who had diarrhea all the way through the airplane, so they want us to come back to Atlanta.
As we slide into deer season, I hope everyone has a safe hunt and gets lucky out in the field this year. Some of my viewers, though, skipped the deer opener entirely and went straight to geese and teal. Joshua sent me this picture. And for those of you out there about to hunt, please go to the range and make sure that your old deer rifle is zeroed in properly. Then practice from field shooting positions. You want to stack the odds in your favor and have enough respect for the animals to give them a swift, clean death. If you haven't already, you can support this channel by hitting that subscribe button. If you want to bypass YouTube's shadow ban on hunting-related content, be sure to also hit that notification button because it might be the only way to catch new uploads in this new YouTube environment. You could follow my adventures by hitting my Insta at Desert Dog Hunting. You can also send me questions or comments at desertdogoutdoors@gmail.com. Thank you for watching, and as always, good hunting.